We are live. What up, players? Welcome to episode 157 of Player Life. Tonight we have a special guest here on the show, John Sonmez from Bulldog Mindset, and we're going to talk about why men must be made. What's up, dude?
Not too much. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, cool. So could you yeah, cheers for coming on. So could you just give us a brief introduction, where you're at and what you're about?
Yeah. So I run a company called Bulldog Mindset. I used to be a software developer, actually. I still have a company called Simple Programmer. And I was, this kind of shy, nerdy guy, really no social skills, no skills with women, just completely different, lazy. And I ended up turning my life around. A lot of it was reading a lot of books that really changed my mindset on things, becoming an entrepreneur. And I started to discover, like, even just in my own journey, that I lacked the masculine characteristics that I thought of as men have. I remember being like 30 something and looking around and seeing other guys and being like, okay, these guys seem like men, but I don't seem like a man for some reason. Like, I just, like, internally, I didn't feel that. And so I sort of went on this journey of figuring this stuff out. And part of that was game, part of that was just heavy into personal development and running marathons and all this stuff. And then after that, I kind of came out a different guy. And so I created Bulldog Mindset basically to teach men how to become men and how to get rid of the victim mindset. I found that, today so many men have this victim mindset, thinking, oh, it's so bad, women are so bad, everything, blaming the world, blaming society, and they're not taking responsibility for life. So Bulldog Mindset is really kind of based in Stoic philosophy. It teaches men how to be men, but teaches them the mindset they need to have to be successful in life, the fitness side of things, the financial side, how to build a business, retire, things like that, and then the social dating and relationship side.
Cool, man. That's so yeah, where are you based again?
I was in San Diego until recently. This year I moved to Tampa, Florida.
All right. Cool, man. And I think I saw a video of you a long time ago. It was about you getting property when you were really young. Is that true?
Yeah. So one of the things that I did right early on, I didn't really know exactly what I was doing, was when I was 19, I bought my first house. And I just didn't want to pay rent. And I thought, okay, maybe I could somehow buy a house. I bought this kind of little shack of a house, somehow got, the little bit I needed for down payment. But then after that, it was kind of a long journey. I got this really good job, and I realized that just making a lot of money was not going to ever get you rich. And so I started researching how to actually build wealth. And it was like 90% of the wealthy families in the United States own real estate. Like, that was their. So I ended up buying a property every single year. That was my goal, just saving money. I wasn't even making a huge amount of money at one point. I was just saving the money and buying a property every year. And that ended up turning out to be a really good idea. So
Right. Cool. Yeah, that's really young. Yeah. So like, I mean, I've seen like the journey you've been on. It was a pretty like dramatic, transformation. I just share like the photo of your transformation because it's
oh
it's
yeah,
pretty.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So share screen. Yeah. So um yeah, it's pretty. How that's pretty. It's a pretty dramatic transformation you've been on. How old were you in this photo?
Let's see. So that looks like that was 2002. So I would have been 22, I guess, in that photo. Yeah, I think
All right.
I think that's right. That seems. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, so you obviously you had your you were kind of financially successful before you changed your kind of you changed into the Bulldog mindset, right?
Yeah, it was like, I had some amount of financial success. It's weird because it was like at that point, I had, well, at one point, I mean, I had a good job, I had some real estate investment, but I still hadn't really built a business. I still wasn't really like an entrepreneur. I was making good money working for someone else as a programmer. Eventually, I started that company, Simple Programmer, and learned about digital marketing and learned about, creating products and building an audience and stuff like that. But even at that point, it still wasn't Bulldog mindset, right? There's like, if you go to my YouTube channel, there's like early videos where I have this high pitched voice, and it's a totally different personality, right? I just acted
Right.
differently, just was different. But yeah, it's only, I'd say that like Bulldog mindset started about 3 years ago, and I sort of went through that transformation maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay. So, how would you describe yourself, when you were, a teenager?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I was basically shy, nerdy, lazy at most of the time, playing video games. Didn't really do any sports. I mean, in high school, eventually, I finally ended up doing sports, like my junior and senior year. But but yeah, I didn't really have much ambition. That it was mostly playing video games and stuff. So
Right. So you weren't really around women, or I mean, was it like a mixed high school you were in? Because
oh yeah,
I went to an all boys high school, so that kind of like really
uh,
that held me back a lot. It took me it was kind of a steep learning curve. When I left high school, because I was so far behind. I saw the females as a very intimidating
mm,
for quite a while. Um, you know, so how would
yeah,
you
no,
describe your
yeah,
experience?
I didn't have any. I mean, I never had a girlfriend in high school or anything, or dated any girls at all. That was just, I don't know. It didn't even occur to me really that I could. I mean, I had crushes and stuff like that, but yeah, I was not. I had no social skills at that point, really.
Right, right. So when was it that you first started to, because I'm a, my thing is, pickup. That's what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
teach. Um, so when was it that you started to like figure out, you became financially successful, obviously very young. So when was it that you started to, you started to figure out women out?
Yeah, I mean, it was, there were different phases of it. I would say when I got out of high school, when I was in college, that's when I started to sort of get it right. And it's sort of like, I think a lot of guys that start to first get into pickup is they initially figure out a few things, and then they think they know everything, right? So I would go out, and I finally was able to approach some women, or like I understood, back then it was like the alt fast seduction forums and stuff like this. So I understood some things, like I could chat with some girls over instant messenger and stuff like that, but I didn't really put it into practice as, it was what, like an armchair quarterback, right? So, like a lot of guys do that today. But later on, probably, I mean, it wasn't until maybe about really like 5 years ago. So after that second transformation, and it was kind of part of it, right? I think that part of like transforming and becoming a man, you have to, I mean, it sounds a little weird to say this, but you have to like have sex with multiple women. You have to, or have that ability, and because you look at the world differently in that, when you do that.
Right.
So that was probably about like 4 or 5 years ago. I sort of had this moment where I was like, okay, well, I realized that I was afraid to go and do approaches. And so I realized I needed to conquer that, because anything that I was afraid to do in life, I needed to go and conquer. And that's about when I really got into it and really started to learn game.
Are you saying that was like 5 years ago?
Mhm.
All
Yeah.
right. And how old are you now?
I'm 41. Yeah.
All right. So you know you were kind of late to the game, I guess. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So what kind of, some guys think, oh, if they, by the time they're, in their, even guys in their early 20s will like kind of give up. Like they'll be like, oh, I'm too old. I missed out. I missed. I was a loser. I was a loser in high school. Like everyone thought I was a loser, and they think they're going to be a loser for the rest of their life. And it's like, man, they have no idea. Like men are made. Like men have to be
exactly.
made. You
Yeah,
know. Um, so it's just crazy how some guys like miss out. I mean, I look back on my teenage years, and even my early 20s, and like all the the missed opportunities, the potential I missed. But
oh yeah,
as men, we just have a better opportunity to we have a long we have longevity if we choose to have it.
yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah. I'm
but a lot
amazed
of
by
guys
all
don't
the
realize it. What
what's that.
advice would you give to guys that think they're too old to learn game or improve, or just in general improve?
Yeah, I mean it's ridiculous. I mean, if you look at like the photos that you showed of me, and you wouldn't think that this guy like could be able to be successful with women, but and the thing is, it's so crazy because what I wanted to do and I couldn't do in my early 20s, I was able to do at, I mean, 40 years old, right? Or 39, like right there. And I mean, a lot of guys are like, oh well, yeah, I don't like girls that are my age or that are and that wasn't the kid. Like so many guys have this illusion that's like, okay, you're gonna, if you learn to pick up when you're, let's say, 35 or 40, that you're gonna be going, with girls that are your age. No, I was constantly going to nightclubs and picking up girls that are 20, 21, 22, no problem, right? It's yeah, you have plenty of time. Now, there's some things you need to do as a man, right? You got to take care of yourself. I mean, I couldn't, as someone who's 40, go and pick up girls that are 20 if I looked like I was 50, right? That wouldn't work out. But if you take care of yourself, stay in shape, good physique, take care of your skin, you look younger. There's no reason. It's ridiculous. And it's absolutely ridiculous when guys are like, "Oh, I'm like 25. I'm too old."
Yeah,
It's so, you have so much time if you put in the effort. I mean, if you put in a good year or two of work on learning game and grinding it out, putting in the approaches, you can completely transform your life. Like there's no reason why you can't. And if I could do it, I mean, you saw the photos, and not only did I do it, but I did it 20 years later. You know what I mean? If I can
right.
do that, then sure, there's no way, there's not even an issue. Like, it's so few guys actually understand or know game. And that's the other thing, is I think that's so important to understand, is that there's all kinds of guys that like study game and think they know game, but they don't actually put it into practice. They don't actually do it. And they don't actually have the balls to do it. And they don't actually stick with it long enough. Right. Because
Right.
that's why, today everyone wants this quick instant fix, the TikTok culture. And so there's tons of guys that'll be watching us, watching videos on game, and they'll go out there and they'll do like a few approaches and they'll get shut down. And then they'll be like, these guys are scammers. The black pill is true. It doesn't work. And they'll have this negative defeatist victim mindset attitude,
Right.
but they don't realize that you got to fucking grind it out. I had a friend of mine that Indian guy, skinny Indian dude, not super tall, just right. And he, back in the day, he grinded out for like 2 years with no results, but now his league count's like over 500. So, but he literally went out there for 2 years, like 4 nights a week, no results. Now, he didn't have all the information that would have helped him back in the day, but he used what he had, and he just kept on trying, because
Right.
he was determined he was going to make it work. But then he eventually did make it work. So yeah, it's ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
it's just an excuse to say that you're too old, or.
Yeah, it's just a lot of guys don't realize what it actually takes to do pickup. Like they
Yeah,
think that you can just approach like 5 to 10 girls, and if you don't get any lays from that amount, then you're a failure and it's a scam and it doesn't work. But I'm very like transparent about the whole process, and it's like the better you become as a man, it's all about increasing probability.
hmm,
That's what pickup is. The better you become as a
exactly.
man, the better you dress, the fitter you are, the smoother you are. It's all about you will increase your probability. When
Yes.
you first start game, if you're you dress like shit, you're overweight, you'll have a certain percentage that'll be very low. It will work. You might get 1 in 1,000 if you look like shit and your game is bad. But the thing about game is it actually works. Like pick cold approach, it does work, but it's
Yeah.
about increasing the probability.
Yeah.
It's like, it's very, a lot of guys think, that they can, just say some magic words and you're just gonna like, be able to, get laid as much as you want. But no, it's like the cold hard truth is you gotta, you gotta become better.
Yeah.
Um, and if you don't become better, then you're gonna have a low probability and you're gonna have to grind it out more. But
Yeah. No, I
I've
like
been
that
doing,
approach.
you know,
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah. I
doing
like.
this for years, and like, I mean, some days I go out, I'll approach, some days I'll do like 10 approaches. That's not that many to be honest, and I'll
Right.
get like just iced out, ghosted. Like the girls will just not even acknowledge my existence, and that's just the way it is. Another day I could go out, I could approach 10 girls, get like 5 contacts, and then like bang like 3 of them. So
Yeah.
it's random, and but I also do like boot camps here in Tokyo. And one of the things guys, learn from it is that, what it actually takes. Because they
Hmm.
don't realize that you have to put in a lot of numbers. And they're like, oh, I didn't realize that you have to approach this many. And I was like, yeah, you do. This is part of it. Like, it's not, it's a savage world. Like, I mean, it's just in female nature to reject men, because if they didn't, the world's already kind of overpopulated. So imagine like women just like accepted men coming up to them all the
Yeah.
time. It would just be like it would just be insane, like but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I like the idea of looking at it in terms of increasing probability. I think that's the right way to look at it. That makes a lot of sense. It's funny because I did a video one time on my channel about saying that, hey, when you start out, you're probably going to be at a place, and I talked about the different things. Like if you're 6'3" tall, Chad, whatever. Yeah, obviously it's going to be easier for you. You're going to have a higher probability, right? But not having game, I mean, that increases your probability if you have game. But I did a video and I was talking about how, like, most of you guys that are watching this video, when you start out, it's going to be, you might get one result every 300 approaches, but over time, as you improve your looks that you can, as you improve your game, maybe that reduces. And to some guys, it's going to cap out because you're just short. Your genetics, your looks are going to limit you, and you're never going to get better than 1 out of 50 or whatever it is. And some guys, maybe they'll be able to get 1 out of 10 because they're, and man, so many guys, even today, they quote it. They're like, oh, John Sonmez says 1 out of 300. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. I don't want to play a game if that's what it is. And I'm like, wow, like these guys have no fucking clue, because shit, when I started out, 1 out of 300, yeah, that was pretty accurate for me. And I am 6'3". Like, that's just how it is until you learn. And but these guys don't want to put in the work. They don't want to believe that they have to do this effort. They want to say, oh well, why don't women come to me? Why do I have to like approach 300 girls? That seems ridiculous. It's whatever, the black pill must be true. uh, so I don't know, like if guys have that attitude, there's no way they're not going to be successful, because they don't realize the work that's required. It's really, it's a skill set that you have to develop in many areas. There's lots of facets to it, and if you don't do it, you're just not going to get what you want. Then okay, then it's because it's never going to be any other way. There's not, it's never going to flip and then all of a sudden girls are coming to you unless you become a famous celebrity.
Right. Yeah, it's true. I mean, like I had a friend back in Ireland. He was like 6'5", you know, really chiseled jaw, handsome, but really shy. And as a result, he never got laid. Like
Yeah.
he ended up getting a girlfriend, and we talk. You can talk about punching down, but this guy was punching down so far. It was just such a mismatch.
Yeah.
And just because he just had this scarcity mindset. He just didn't recognize his potential.
Right.
Just had no game, no understanding. Just in Ireland already, it's pretty bad with the only way guys hook up is either through dating apps or nightlife. I mean that goes for most of the world, to be honest. But in Ireland, it's like day game is definitely like out of the question for like I don't think anyone does it pretty much.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Oh,
It's just such a small, I don't
yeah.
know. It's just not the way people hook up, or it's not the way people date. They were over rely on alcohol,
Mm.
um, heavily. That's another thing you could talk about. You know, some guy. What would you say to guys that think they need alcohol to they they need alcohol to do game, or that's the only time they could ever consider like trying to be flirt with a woman or whatever.
One of my mentors, he said something to me that I thought was pretty wise. Is he said, if you can game on out, drinking. He said, but your drinking game will improve. It's like it won't do shit for your sober game. So if you want to like, and that is maxed out anyway. So uh, it's if you anything that you do in life that's a crutch, right? If you're using, there's nothing wrong with going out and having a couple of drinks, but if you're using it as a crutch, if you can't go and talk to women, if you need that as courage, liquid courage, then you're going to be preventing yourself from actually growing, right? You'll be able to do it perhaps, but you're going to be sloppy. You need to be able to learn how to run game sober. And then if you want to have alcohol because you just enjoy having a couple of drinks or whatever, or every once in a while, that's totally fine. But if you're relying on that, then you're just going to make you weaker. Anytime you're using a crutch, it makes you weaker. Just like if you were to wear a cast on your leg and walk around in crutches, and you did that for a month or two, when you took off that cast, your leg's going to be weak, right? So crutches make you weak. So don't do that. In fact, if you want an advantage in game, be the sober guy at 2 a.m., right? Because at that point you're still sharp. You can identify the opportunities that other guys are missing, and yeah, you're going to have a lot better results. In the short term, you'll have better results with alcohol for sure, but then you're adding more of a luck component to it. But if you're sober in the long term, you're going to have better results because you have more control over what's happening.
Yeah. There's no personally. I think if you need alcohol to get with women, you can't really call it game
Yeah.
because it's just like you're relying on a substance. Like you said, more just like kind of gambling. There's no strategy about it. Um, so when you first started getting better with women, how were you sourcing them?
Uh, I just was going just cold approach pickup at nightclubs and bars. That was or pool parties. Basically doing that. I didn't even really do. I mean, a little bit of day game, but mostly just going out to nightclubs and just and the reason why, I mean, and some things maybe would have been easier at that time, but I didn't want to do what was easy. I wanted to do what was going to grow my skill set the most. So yeah, that's what I end up doing.
All right. Do you ever, do you dabble in day game at all or even now?
No, I mean, I've got a girlfriend now,
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, um, but I did, back in the day, because it was just a way of life, right? It was like if I would just approach if I see a girl, like where it doesn't matter what the context is, where I'm at, right? And that's where you know guys watching, you need to get into that mode where where it just becomes a thing that you just do. Like, just you see a girl, you just approach. You don't even think about it.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of guys overthink just overthink the whole idea of doing a cold approach. They're like making a big deal out of it, out of something that is just in reality very simple.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. No,
know.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, guys are
Yeah,
always
no,
asking me about like what do you say? What's good openers? And I'm like, it doesn't like you're thinking about the wrong thing. Like what you need to do is just move your feet in that direction and just start heading that direction, and then your mind will fill in what you need to say. Right? It's just like
right.
when you go and you talk to a random person, you don't think about like what you're gonna say to that person and like, oh, I better not go up to this person before I know what to say. You just know that you're gonna talk to them. So that's too many guys make it like such a big deal and don't realize that they just need to go up there and they're gonna be afraid, they're gonna be nervous, because you have to get through that because you have to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation over and over again until it becomes comfortable, and that's the only way you're
Right.
gonna improve.
Yeah, yeah. It's like when guys get caught up in the strat, reading about, all the kind of pickup books and all the YouTube videos. And it's like they don't put themselves in the, they're taking in all the, the strategy or all the technique, but they're not actually putting themselves in the field. They're not actually
Yeah,
going out there and doing it. Like I compare it to, I had a friend, I used to surf a little bit back in Ireland. I wasn't very good, but I could ride a wave. But I used to go out with a friend whenever he was going. He was like a fan of surfing. He would like read about it. He would watch
yeah,
movies about it. He'd buy all the magazines. But at the end of the day, he just didn't really have the balls. Like I would kind of just go out just because he was going out. I didn't really care about it. I didn't like read books or magazines or anything like that. But I'd kind of go out, naive and just like put myself in the lineup, and I'd get waves. I get smashed by waves, but I'd also catch waves because I was
yeah,
putting myself in the lineup while he was kind of, I don't know, he was out on the shoulder, just kind of being too cautious. It's kind of is good an analogy. What how guys approach like pickup. Like they read all this like all this material and all these strategies, and they're
yeah.
not actually putting themselves out there. And it's just yeah, it's better just to go out into the field, I would say.
Yeah, it's
Um,
true. I mean, so many times it's like guys ask me about, what I need to learn was it, and to be honest, I tell a lot of guys, it's like, look, obviously I help guys, I do coaching and whatnot, and but if you don't need actually even to learn anything, sure, having a good coach can help accelerate you and but if you knew nothing about game and you just went out there and just started approaching every time that you see a girl and you would just figure it out yourself. Like it
right,
might take you a little longer than having some guidance, to be able to, but mostly like when I coach guys too, like a lot of, you probably have similar experience, but a lot of what I'm actually doing is just providing the accountability and the forcing them to go and do it and get outside their comfort zone. Right, that environment is what causes them to grow. But it's a natural process. Like if you just go out there and start talking to girls, you're going to figure out what works and not. Sure, you can have someone coach you and accelerate you because they can see what you're doing, and then you can get some feedback and you can get a faster iteration than you would on your own. But all these guys think that they need to study all this theory and all this stuff, and sure, and some of that stuff is fine and it doesn't hurt to, but a 90% of your improvement is going to come from just getting out there and doing it.
right. Do you think guys that like say that the juice isn't worth the squeeze like are kind of sedated with pornography and video games and stuff like that? Because like guys that really, if guys are really about it, like when they build up, when they have high testosterone and they're not jerking off, you should you should be wanting very much, you should be highly motivated to go after it. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah, I think there's a combination of things, right? It's like, you know One, like you said, the pornography, the video games, so if you're not doing that, then you're gonna have to like get your fix somewhere. So it's gonna force you to go out and do things that you wouldn't want to do that or make you uncomfortable. But then there's also this aspect of it. Like I've always told guys that like you have to be doing game for the love of game, right? It's sort of like for
Right.
me, it was always a it's a fucking it's like the hunter instinct, right? It's the
Right.
conquest of it. It's not I don't even
Mm.
care so much about having sex with this girl as much as I care about fucking winning. Like I'm gonna fucking
Yeah.
win. And that's kind of got to be the mindset that you have if you want to be successful, because you're going to face so much rejection and failure in the short term. Is you got to be like, this is a fucking challenge and I like the challenge of this, and this is the game that I like to fucking play. And that feeling of victory. So when they say the juice isn't worth the squeeze, it's ridiculous, because if you're just thinking about, you just, is it worth it to have sex? Okay, sure. Then I could agree with you. Yeah, I mean, because you're going to be fucking grinding it out for 6-7 hours a night, and then hopefully you get a result, and then you're like, well, that wasn't worth it. Yeah, if you're just talking about the sex, but the fucking feeling of being a man, of doing what 95% of guys can't fucking do on this earth, and being able to do that, that is worth the squeeze. That fucking feeling of victory and being able to reproduce that feeling of victory, that's worth the squeeze. That's what you need to be in the game for, because the game is going to
Right.
fuck with your head, and it's going to, you're going to have bad times, and it's going to seem like you're never going to win, and then you're going to fucking get those wins, and that's what it's about.
Right. Yeah. So like, yeah, it's about motivation, isn't it? And it's it's you can guys that say the juice isn't worth the squeeze. 1 out of 300 that sucks, and it's like, but I don't know about you, but personally speaking, sex it's one of the best things in the world. Like I'm not saying it's the best. Like there's other
Right.
things. It shouldn't be the only thing, but it is fucking great, right? It's fucking unbelievable. So that 1 out of 300 could be, you could have like the most ecstatic, unbelievable times with, right?
Yeah.
Like that could be a regular, who knows? I mean, it could be your girlfriend if you want. I mean, so it is worth the squeeze if you're a hot-blooded like male that's like has high test, is highly motivated and driven, which you should
Yeah.
be. I always tell guys like if you're not like, no, guys should pretty much always be turned on. Like it's like if you're not capable of smashing every day, then there's something you need to check. If you're, are you eating correctly? Are you exercising? Are you getting enough sleep? Because as a man, as a healthy man, you should be ready to go at all times. If you're not, I don't know, you're jerking off. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're watching too much porn. And I'm not like one of these guys. Oh, never ever, like, never ever
Right.
jerk off. Like, I'm like, okay, like, things in moderation. I'm not like, this like, just one extreme end of something. But it's about how motivated you are. And I just have a suspicion that the guys that say things like the juice isn't worth the squeeze is just they're fucking sedating themselves. With I don't know, weed, porn, jerking off, not exercising. You
Yeah.
know, all of the above. And they're complaining about not getting pussy or not getting laid, and it's like, well, like you're just, I don't know, you're just not putting in the work.
Yeah,
um
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So another kind of off topic, well, on the same topic, but like you're obviously heavily into your fitness. When was it that you started getting jacked and fucking taking your health seriously?
Yeah, so it was weird. So like there was a point in high school where I started going to the gym and lifting weights. And so I gained a lot of muscle then, like in my after my sophomore year, the summer of my sophomore year in high school. But I was sort of doing things for the wrong reason, right? Again, it was like I was seeking validation, and so that's why I was doing what I was doing. So it didn't really stick. And even like a lot of the changes I made, I started playing some sports and stuff. I was just seeking validation. So that stuff, it wasn't an internal change. It was more of an external change. So I started to gain some muscle, and I was in pretty good shape. Then was doing some running. But what happened is I went downhill quickly. By the time I was 22, like in that photo, I was now fat, and you couldn't tell that I had worked out and lifted weights and whatnot. And then that continued until what was it? Until probably like around 28 or so. And then at that point, I remember going into the store and buying like size 46 pants, like US 46. And I was like, okay, you're a fat ass, John. So that point, like I had to really like have a come to Jesus moment with myself and realize that, look, your life is not what you want it to be. And it's not going to happen magically, right? Like on this path, you're just going to get fatter. Like, you can bullshit yourself all you want, but you're not this awesome stud of a guy that you think you are in your head, right? And I think that's the delusion that a lot of guys have. A lot of guys will sit here in the YouTube comments and watch videos or whatever it is, and they think that they're some kind of fucking badass stud, right? They're like, oh yeah, I could go and get girls if I wanted to. I just juice isn't worth the squeeze, but whatever. I understand, all these things, right? And so that's kind of the delusion I had in my head. I was like, I'm this, fit guy, like, because I was before, and I'm good with women, but I was chicken shit. It's like all these delusions. I finally had to be like, okay, look, if you actually want the life that you think that you have, that you think you're quote entitled to, you got to fucking put in the work and make it happen. So that point, right after that, 6 months later, I lost 100 pounds, got back in shape, started running, started hitting the gym again, lifting weights, gained back a bunch of weight, but muscle this time. And then after that, I just kept on taking on new challenges. I started running some half marathons, and then I ran a full marathon. And then last year, I ran a 50-mile race, and I did, been doing marathons and whatnot. So that's basically what happened. Was I decided I was going to become what I actually had thought that I was in my head. You know what I mean? Like, to actually put that into action, because that became the standard for myself. It was like I viewed myself this way, so now I need to actually do the work to actually be what I wanted to become.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to, it's like, the saying, like, men are made, women just are,
Yeah.
or men age like wine and women age like milk. But it's like it's the thing where, like, men can have they have the ability, they have the potential to age like wine. It's not a given, definitely
Right.
not a given.
Exactly. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's like, but a lot of, and then there's guys that they get, it goes back to the same thing where they think it's too late. Not only with game, but they might be in their 30s, and they think, oh, it's too late. I'm fat. It's like, what's the point now? Like, they might have backaches or different issues, and they think, oh, I'm too old. What's the point? What advice would you give to guys like that think, again, that think kind of they're too old to get like fit, they're too old to like get in good shape?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is, like, if you really like a year, you could completely transform your entire life, your physique, everything. You know, usually within, I mean, if you have 3 years, you can reach like 95% of your genetic potential in 3 years. So, it's just an excuse. And besides, the big thing again, and I tell a lot of the black pill guys, is like, just, okay, maybe you're not going to make it, whatever that is, but you should fucking die trying. Like, why not put in every single ounce of effort that you have in doing the best that you can? Because even if you just do that, even if you just get to the gym, start lifting weights, start losing weight, cleaning up your diet, like going out and gaming, even if you're not getting success, and start working on a business or a YouTube channel or something, and like you just give it everything that you've got, even if you're
Mm,
not successful, which if you do all that, you will be successful. But even if you didn't, you would be so fucking proud of it. You would feel like the man, because you would know
yeah.
what you did. And that ultimately, at the end of the day, right? It doesn't matter. Like, I don't care about having millions of dollars. Like, that doesn't, people will say, oh yeah, John, that's great, you're a millionaire. Okay. Or you wrote books, or you did this, or you have this, like all those things, they don't fucking matter. What matters is what I think about what I did, what I think about what I accomplished, and what work I put in. That's what matters to me. And so it's not the results, it's about the effort that you put in. It's about knowing that you push the limit, that you put in what you could. And so that's the thing, is it doesn't matter whether it's too late or not. It's not,
Mm,
but you don't have to believe me. There's still no reason that why you should give up, because ultimately you have control over the ultimate happiness that you're going to have in life. Let's say fulfillment in life, which is going to be, it's always going to be putting in the work, right? That's the one thing. As
right.
a man, you're never going to be fulfilled. Like I could give you money, I could transform you and give you a physique or whatever, and like if all that stuff was given to you, you think you'd be happy, but you wouldn't. For a while, like, initially you'd be like, oh, this is great, this is awesome, but then you'd realize you didn't earn any of that shit, and it would actually become worthless to you. You would hate it. And there's so many rich kids that are trust fund kids that live that life, right? They're given all these things, they feel worthless, and they don't feel like they've earned it, and they're not happy. So
Right. It's kind of like, it's kind of like if as long as you know you're trying. I mean, it's like if you stand up to a bully but you get beaten up, it's still, you can still be proud of yourself. You still, like if you let a bully walk all over you and treat you like shit and you cower, you're a coward, that will, like, send you into a spiral of depression because you'll know you didn't have the balls to stand up to someone. It's kind of like the same idea, right? As
exactly.
long as you try, like as long as you're like, you die trying, you're gonna feel like fucking, like you're on a mission, right? You're gonna feel like you're doing something.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I've had days where it's like, I waste the whole day, I don't do shit, I sit around, and you just feel like, it's kind of like the less you do, it's like the less you do. It's like sometimes, I don't know, it's just like the less you have to do, the worse you feel. It's better to have more to do sometimes. Um, it's so what advice would you give to guys that, like go towards the black pill, go towards pessimism, and just kind of just get into that spiral of depression?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is that you are your environment. You're a product of your environment, right? Every one of us is. Okay. If I surrounded myself with black pill type of content and people who believe that, then I would believe that. I would become that, and I would become the product of that environment, which is a loser. Like you will become what you'll become what you marinate in, right? That it will, you know, that's the best way to put it. So don't surround yourself with that. When I earlier in my life, I lived in a cubicle. All right. I did a regular job, and I was around people who believed that real estate investing is a scam, building online businesses is a scam, right? Like that this shit doesn't work, right? That they had all these limiting beliefs. They didn't believe any of this stuff. And I was that. I believed that, right? Because I was in that environment. I made a friend. I remember I went to a Magic the Gathering tournament, okay? And I met this guy who owned an online store where he sold Magic the Gathering cards, and he was making a lot of money. And I was like, oh, you don't work for anyone else, you just, right? And then that opened my eyes, right? And I started hanging around that guy, and then pretty soon I had an online business, and pretty soon I wasn't working the 9 to 5 job anymore. And so you are what you marinate in. So if you need to right now cut out all of these influences, stop watching that kind of content, start reading good books, books that are going to improve you, that have a positive message, right? Start hanging around people who have that mindset. Get rid of all the toxic, negative people in your life, and you will become that, right? And
Yep.
then you will have success. Because the thing is, it's not a matter of, people try to debate all day, and you can debate whether the black pill is true or not. And there's some truth to it. Okay. There's some harsh realities. All right. I could tell you plenty of times, like things like height, sure, women prefer guys that are taller. It's absolutely
There's
fucking true.
absolutely some dark truths for sure. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's um, I was just talking to MLD about some of them today,
yeah,
but about
yeah,
some of the dark truths, about what women actually like, um,
yeah.
you know,
And
um,
you can dwell on that kind of shit, right? And it's fine to be aware of those things. But the thing is, what information, and I think of this as a business person too, like what good is information that I can't utilize, right? It's like, okay, if you can't do anything about it, there's no point fucking dwelling on it, right? So if it's like, if I hear some statistic, like if you're short and then you hear that women prefer guys over 6 feet tall and this is like their preference curve or whatever, okay, it's fine. But what if you're short, what are you going to do with that information? It doesn't change any fucking thing for you, right? You
right,
can't utilize that information. So there's no point in dwelling on it. Okay, sure, fine. Okay, let's acknowledge that, but then you move on. So you have to really realize that it doesn't matter where you're at in life or what kind of shitty hand. Maybe you have shitty genetics, maybe you got dealt a shitty hand in life. What matters is then what are you going to fucking do about it? Right. Because regardless of where you are, right? Because there's some people that start off life up here and there's some people that start off life down here. Okay. Regardless of where you are, the only thing you can do is improve. And so if you start off down here and you can get to here, well, that's fucking better than being down here, right? It doesn't, you can't be like, oh, well, there's some people that are up here. Okay, fine. There are some people that are up there. Big deal. But where can you get to personally? Right. That's the question. And
right,
that's the thing you should be focusing on is on yourself, not on what other people are doing or what all this kind of bullshit and comparing yourself to others. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Are you improving? Are you becoming better? Okay, because it's one step at a time. Because you can make your life, if you can make your life just 1% better every single fucking day, right? You're going to have, it's going to be 3 times better in a couple of years. So,
yeah, yeah. Feeling sorry for yourself doesn't get you shit. Like life is brutal. Life isn't fair.
yeah,
Let's look at nature. Look at look at the way a lion sometimes eats an antelope. The way it eats sometimes
exactly.
eats it alive, like eats it from the ass out. Like it's just like savage. Like I don't know. We live in, you know, right now humans, with all the shit that's going on in the world, we're still living in very comfortable times. I mean, um, it's just people are too coddled. I don't know. But this question's been here for a while, so I'll put it up. Um, Pepsa Stomna says, Bulldog, how did you manage combining business with pickup? With Mac, it seems all his free time is taken over by pickup. With you, business and pickup. Did you do just a little at a time but steadily? I'll just say, not all my free time is taken by pickup. I do other things, but I do a lot of pickup too. But yeah, you can go for that.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I would say is that you have this triangle, right? And you have fitness, you've got game pickup, and then sex, you've got uh, finances, money, business. Okay. And at any given point in your life, pick 2 out of 3, but you can't be working on all 3 at the same time. Right. So that doesn't mean that you can't, for example, right? Let's say that you work on your physique, like you're just focused on fitness stuff. Okay. You could do that and you can develop a really good physique and then you can put it on maintenance mode and not make that your focus. And it's really easy to maintain that physique. You don't have to go to the gym as much, right? You don't have to be so strict on your diet. Like you can maintain a physique. The same thing applies to business. You can grind it out for a fucking couple of years and really work your ass off working 70, 80 hour weeks. But then once you get your business to a certain point, like a lot of my business, I don't have to do shit. Like if I work 4 hours a week, I can still make, 30, $40,000 a month just doing that because the business runs for it. So, I can put in maintenance mode. Same thing with game, right? There's going to be some period in life. If you learn really good game, if you become good at it, then you could go out for a weekend and start getting results. Okay. But when you're starting out, you can't just go out one weekend and expect to get results. It's just not going to fucking happen. Like you need to put in the work. So that's what I did was I strategically worked on certain areas of my life at certain times and then put them into maintenance mode. So you can kind of go through a cycle with that. So because you can't do all the stuff and be growing in all three areas at the same time, it's really really difficult. So you the max you can grow in any of those three areas is two at a time. And so
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I did was I just picked, okay, and a lot of times my business was more on autopilot. And then there were other times when I was growing and focusing my business. But, also it became like a necessity, right? Because I think part of it that lit a fire under my ass was being older and saying like I can't fuck around here. Like I'm gonna go in and the kind of the best advice I would give you just in general in pick up in improving your skill set is there's plenty of guys you can do 1,000 approaches and not improve your skills hardly at all. You have to go all in on those approaches. Like you have to be willing to push the boundaries, to push the limit. And part of the reason why I was able to do that was because I had to, because I knew I had limited time. So I was like, okay, I'm going to maximize every one of these sets. Like if I'm going to get blown out of a set, I'm going to get blown the fuck out of a set. Like I am going to just fucking plow as hard as I can because I'm going to learn from that and gain, and I just like, okay, I only have so many options, right? I only have so much time. So I need to fucking make it happen, right? I can't be like, okay, well, I tried, right? I think a lot of guys come into this and they're like, I tried, like I did it. I did the approach. And that's no, it's got to be like, no, you have to fucking make it work. But it's the same kind of mindset you have to have in business because a lot of guys that I coach, they're like, oh, well, will this business idea work? Or, I'll give it a try. I'm like, no, that's not how it works, right? It's the same thing with business and game. When you go and approach a set or you start a business, you got to be like, I'm going to fucking make this work. I'm going to make this happen. Whatever obstacles are in my way, whatever logistics I need to overcome, I'm going to figure out, and I'm going to figure out some way to make this shit happen. And that's the mindset that you have to have.
right. Yeah, that's pretty good answer. I mean, yeah, I mean, if I wasn't involved in this corner of the internet, I would kind of incorporate game into my lifestyle. I wouldn't necessarily spend. I tell guys, the goal is to kind of, if you're wanting to live the player lifestyle where you're hooking up with new women on the regular, then ideally you want to, just live the player lifestyle, as in you're just like you're approaching hot women when you see them. You're not necessarily dedicating time to go out, spending 4 hours on a Saturday afternoon picking up, going specifically out to pick up women. That's not ideal. I mean, you can do that. I mean, I do boot camps with guys where I do that to try and like teach them really quickly. But ideally when you learn these skills, you kind of just want to have it as part of your lifestyle if you're looking to live that kind of lifestyle. You know,
Exactly.
um, but each to their own. I mean, some guys, they might want to live the lifestyle for a while, and then they might want to get a girlfriend and be monogamous with her. It's like it's all good, but that's for me personally. I just enjoy living that lifestyle. um so what you said you have a girlfriend now. What kind of more inspired you to stop like sleeping around, or you know uh
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a matter of you have perspective when you've had some experience, right? And so you can identify a better opportunity. I think most guys end up what ends up happening in their life is that they finally meet some girl that will actually have sex with them. Like this is like the average guy. And so they end up girlfriending up or marrying that girl because scarcity, right? And
right.
so a lot of times they make bad choices because there is no choice. It's an illusion of choice. If you don't have options, you don't have a choice, right? So for me, at least, like I had the options and I saw what was out there, and I found someone who I felt exceeded in many areas, everything else that was out there, and was what I was looking for. And so, I feel like to some degree, your life like it's great. If you haven't been able to go out and be a player or whatever, sure, go do it. Go, enjoy and learn that life. But at some point, you know, you may want something more than that, right? It's something that's a deeper connection, a longer term thing. And at that point, hopefully you have some really good criteria and you know how to handle yourself in a relationship,
Right.
and you find, basically a girl that treats you like a king. And so that's what I found. So that, was enough for me to say, okay, yeah, I'd rather have this, making a conscious choice rather than, like I said, with most guys, don't make a conscious choice. They don't have an option, so they just pick what's
Yeah.
presented to them. So
Yeah, it kind of remind what you said kind of reminded me. I saw I think it was Sterling Cooper said something like, yeah, he put out a tweet. I think it was him. He said something like, "Can you really trust someone who can't get laid?" It's a kind of a cold hard truth, but it's kind of true because a man that can't get laid, is more likely to kind of be a backstabber. I think it's
yeah,
kind of they'll sell you out just for a whiff of pussy. And I've
yeah,
just seen too many examples of that. I've seen too many examples of it, like kind of beta guys that'll sell you out at the drop of a hat. Just you know, I've just seen it. The guys that are very like I said, beta that'll white knight and do all that kind of shit. Um, just out of scarcity, just out of the whole the scarcity mindset. And it's like you can't really trust guys like that. Um, so it's like you need to come from a position of choice, right? And that's
right,
you had the ability to hook up with women, and then you chose you. It's a choice. It's not out of scarcity, right? Like
exactly,
there's a lot of guys out there that just like settle get a girlfriend just because like out of like necessity. Like it's just they don't really have they have no options really, and then they wonder why they're getting mistreated by their girlfriend because their girlfriend kind of will end up realizing that their man doesn't have options, and then they become disgusted by him. And that's like
exactly.
it's kind of a cold hard truth about female nature. They kind
Yeah,
of like will mistreat guys without options eventually. I think most
exactly.
women will.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100% because they know that you've got no other, you got nowhere else to go. Like,
And they
so
take it personally. They take it
yeah,
personally as, because, oh, well, why am I settling with this guy if he's no other options? That says a lot about their own worth, you
yeah,
know. So that's why guys end up in these miserable relationships for, um yeah, it's just let's see. Wade says, listening to the book, The Compound Effect, and understanding it made things a lot easier to put in extra effort for me.
yeah,
Yeah, um, absolutely. I've read that book too. Um, Daniel Daniel Eddy says they don't follow bro code.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, yeah. So just a kind of a another topic, but just maybe one of the last questions. How would you describe yourself politically?
Good question. Yeah, so I'm pretty deeply rooted libertarian, right? So for people who don't know what that means, it means that I am for freedom, for not for not having government or as little government as possible. You make your own choices in life, right? Taxation is theft, right? So no one has a right to take money from you just because you live somewhere. Any kind of mandates by the government is, all of these things are basically assault, right? Like, for a, it's government basically has a monopoly on crime, right? Because anyone else that would do the things to you that the government does to you would, would be an assault on you, right? So that's kind of my perspective, is basically that, little to no government as possible, that government doesn't have a right uh, to to tell you what to do, to tax you, to do any of these things. Basically you have your own sovereignty.
Yeah. So you mustn't be too pleased about what's the current situation that's going
Yeah,
on around.
no, it's a lot of bullshit that's happening right now, and it comes from weak men, to be honest with you, because people are afraid, and they are willing to trade their freedom for a sense of security, right? That's what the whole thing. I mean, that's what masks are about. It's a false security. A mask isn't going to do shit for you,
Mm.
but people are willing to trade their freedom in order to have that false sense of security. And we saw this happen, within the last year or so, how willing people are, right? I mean, literally in the past, when men were men, they would die to defend their basic freedoms. But here now, people cower in fear and give up as much power in their own sovereignty to a government in order to save their skins. So,
Yeah, it's pretty shocking what's going on all around, the world. I heard there's soldiers on the streets of Australia,
yeah,
keeping people in their homes. That's insane. That's
absolutely.
actually
Yeah.
fucking insane. Like it's unbelievable that's what it's come to. Like I actually can't even comprehend it. It's all happened so fast. It's just insane. Like it's everything's become so complicated now. Like even just traveling now is more annoying. And travel, I like traveling, but I mean, even it was always kind of a little bit of a burden having to get your passport and just kind of like making sure you don't have any sharp objects. Just kind of little
Yeah.
things that are annoying. Booking your tickets, make sure your name's spelled correctly, all this shit. But now it's become so much worse. It's like
Yeah.
there's all this extra shit, like all these tests and shit. It's like a fucking man. I don't know. Where do you see this going? Like,
I don't know. I mean, the pendulum usually swings one way and then it swings the other way. So I think this ridiculous liberalism and leftist, you know, bullshit will eventually swing back the other way. That's what I think will happen, right? There's that poem, and that's Stefan Arnio had wrote that book. Hard times create strong men, right? It's hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. So it's a cycle that we're in. We're
right,
in the hard times cycle now because we had weak men, and the hard times cycle will create strong men out of it. So that's how it usually works. The pendulum swings back and forth between these two extremes. As people start to get fed up with this, and then the next cycle will happen. Hopefully, so that's the way I see it. I don't see a totally pessimistic viewpoint where we have this sudden lack of freedoms and it just becomes worse and worse. I don't think that's the way that things will go. But who knows? I mean, it is scary at this point. I feel like we're at the brink of that possibly becoming a reality. So, as your freedoms become eroded away, and then it becomes a new normal, right? It becomes the and that's the biggest scare of it, is like all these things started, it was like initially, you know, it was small things, and then it increased, and then all of a sudden, like, people are doing ridiculous things. I mean, in New York City and what is it in San Francisco now, if you don't show that you have a vaccine, you can't go to a restaurant, and people are accepting
yeah,
this. That's insane. That's
it's
absolutely insane
nuts,
that
man.
people would accept this. Yeah. I'm
I
glad I
just
don't live there because I would be in jail. So
Here's just a meme. Have you seen this meme? 2019, I fucking hate Nazis. 2021, show me your fucking pictures. Like
yeah,
the
exactly.
the hypocrisy of these leftists and liberals is like
Yeah.
it's like sickening. Like it's actually like vomit inducing. Like it's so like nuts, man. Like they're so spineless.
Yeah.
It's just insane, man. I don't know, how is it where you're at? I mean,
I
is
mean,
your
Florida is a
mom?
little bit better, but but there's still, it still seeps into everything. A big problem of it is social media, and you've got this younger generation of, especially women, that spend so much time on social media, that are influenced by all this rhetoric, and it's like all these people out here seeking validation. This is what happens, is that the things that there's this virtue signaling, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is good. Like, why did so many women support Black Lives Matter? Because it was the right thing to do, because all these influencers and people said this, and so then they're being brainwashed by this propaganda. And so, you know and then you have all these white knight sort of soy guy beta guys, and what do? They're like, oh well, all these women like support this thing, so I want to be an ally to
Yeah.
to them. So then they jump on this fucking bandwagon, and then
Goes
that's how
back to
that
what I was
shit
saying.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Goes back to what I
yeah,
was saying about the guys, not, not being, not be, you just can't trust them. They'll sell you out at the drop of a hat. And I think Joe Rogan had a guest on, 8 years ago, but it was a guy that was, like a white knight, a liberal, all pro Me Too, and then he got Me Too'd, and then he was like all apologetic about it. Can't remember what his name was, but it was like, you had to kind of eat his shorts because he was like, he was this white knight, and it came back in his face. And
yeah,
it's like karma. It's karma, man. Karma is real, man. I don't know what you think about it, but
yeah. No, it
I
is.
think like shit comes back on people, man. It always does. Um,
But all this stuff, like the plus to this, honestly, that I think a lot of guys don't see is that it's easier now than ever to be a like to be attractive to women as a man, because there's so
right,
few real men. Like,
right.
all these guys are like, oh yeah, it's crazy. All these women are feminists and liberals and on all this bullshit. And
Mhm.
I'm like, and all these guys are soy boy. That's great, because you don't have very much competition, because regardless of what women say, they're instinctually wired to go after the alpha male, the guy that doesn't give fuck. You know what I mean? And
Right,
so if you're that guy, you're not fucking intimidated by all this bullshit, and you don't worry about some bullshit Me Too stuff, and you know what I mean, then you're gonna be the guy that women want. They're like, fuck, finally a man, right?
right,
And I coached a lot of women as well, and that's the thing, is they're like, fuck, all these
right.
guys are fucking pussies. Like, this is a constant
Uh,
thing. So that's the positive for guys watching this, that like, if you're out there doing game, people are like, oh yeah, it doesn't work anymore, that was 2009 or whatever. And now with dating apps and Instagram and OnlyFans, women have like the selection of all the chat guys that they want. It's like, yeah, there's some truth to it, but at the same time, it's like, women are just, even all the guys that they majority of the guys they encounter today are fucking pussies. So if you're not a fucking pussy, you have a huge advantage. So, think
yeah,
about like being alive today as a man versus in the 1930s, or back in the fucking gladiator days, or, whatever, where like, in order to be a fucking man, like you had a lot of fucking men to compete with, like men that would be willing to fucking die and kill, to, to defend their fucking honor. Right. So
yeah.
then you
Men's
really have to
testosterone must
fucking
have
be a
been,
man.
yeah.
Yeah.
Men's testosterone must have been so much higher because they have no access to pornography. They weren't,
Yeah.
it's like raw, like male sex drive. They would have been, yeah. It's just different times now, man. We're so sedated.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, it's yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been a good talk. Um, I feel like I could ask you a lot more, but where can guys find you? What are you up to? Like,
Yeah.
some close words.
I mean, best thing to do is go to bulldogmindset.com. On there'll be a little quiz that'll pop up, a 10-question quiz, tell you your bulldog score. So take the quiz, find your score from 0 to 100. Basically tells you if you have mental toughness, if you are a pussy or not, and then how to fix that. So go check it out, bulldogmindset.com. And then from there, you can find my YouTube channel, all that stuff. So
Yeah, yeah, it's sweet, man. Well, I guess we'll call it there. So I really appreciate you coming on.
yeah,
Um, all right, so guys, I'll be back. Today is Wednesday. I'll be back Thursday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. So check in, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. So until then, guys, peace out. Bye bye.
see ya.